It's 1915 and Britain is at war with Germany. Bert Brocklesby, a schoolteacher from South Yorkshire, has decided that because of his beliefs, he cannot in all conscience volunteer for the army. The No Conscription Fellowship has been founded, an organisation opposing the anticipated introduction of military conscription, and Bertrand Russell, world-famous philosopher, and passionately against the war, is serving on its committee. But we are now interrupted by a newsflash.
In the first 3 months of the war, with volunteers coming forward at the rate of 300,000 a month, the case for conscription seemed irrelevant. But by Christmas, it's becoming all too apparent that the war will be a long, drawn-out struggle, devouring vast amounts of manpower. In the spring of 1915, the Liberal government is brought down, and on the 19th of May, Prime Minister Henry Asquith announces
the formation of a coalition.
A coalition which includes significant members of the Conservative Party. By September 1915, with the casualty toll now over 380,000.
380,000? 380,000?
With the casualty toll now over 380,000, one Tory backbencher after another rises to put what they believe
is the irrefutable case for conscription. Conscription is justified, not only by the pressing necessity of having more men, but on the better and higher ground of equality of service. Yeah, the working classes would far prefer universal service to a voluntary system, under which it is only the willing horse who goes, while the loafers and shirkers stay at home.
Yeah. And to set an example, those who are wealthy should make the ultimate sacrifice for king and country of giving up the luxury of motor travel and immediately sending their chauffeurs into the army.
I'm staying with my lover, Ottoline Morel, and her husband, the Liberal MP Philip Morel, at their country home in Oxfordshire. I've just been bathing stark naked in their pond when I find the Prime Minister on the bank as I get out. Oh, good afternoon. The quality of dignity which should characterise a meeting between the Prime Minister and a pacifist is somewhat lacking on this occasion. But what do they talk about? Bertrand Russell, in his autobiography, doesn't say. Was there a conversation between them which ran something like this? How's Cambridge? Chilly. Yes, I gather you don't have many sympathisers there. Imagine them both on a bench by the pond. Russell, just in a towel, soaking up the sun after his swim. The Prime Minister, a keen golfer, in +4s. Those baggy golf breeches, not having change for supper yet. At Cambridge, I'm made to feel like a traitor. The older dons getting more hysterical by the day, avoiding me at high table, as if I'm the sole reason the war hasn't been won yet. Do you have a match? This pipe's going out. I don't, I'm afraid. Believe me, Prime Minister, I desire the defeat of Germany as ardently as any retired colonel. Love of England is very nearly the strongest emotion I possess. And having to set it aside at this time, well, it's not an easy thing to renounce, I can tell you, but I've no choice. We shouldn't be at war. And such a trivial war, too. Trivial? No great principle is at stake. I profoundly disagree. No great human purpose is involved on either side. It's mere barbarity. I mean, the use of gas, for goodness sake. Is this the way in which the finest scientific brains in Europe are now being employed to concoct the most lethally disabling substances known to man? If I might remind you, Russell, it was the Germans who used gas first. Does it not occur to any of you to sue for peace now, after so many thousands have died?
What a climb down that would be. A disgrace. No, we have to see it through.
For the sake of the financiers, I suppose. For the sake of the arms manufacturers. For the sake of the...
I say now what I said to the House the day after war was declared. That our country is fighting neither for aggression nor for the advancement of our own selfish interests, but for principles whose maintenance is vital to the civilized world. But you're destroying the civilized world. The civilized world will not recover from this onslaught for decades. Decades! Shouldn't we have evolved by now to a point where we can resolve our disputes in a manner which doesn't involve such ghastly carnage? What are you laughing at? It's difficult talking about such things to a mathematician wearing nothing but a towel. It's difficult talking about such things to a Prime Minister wearing golf breeches. What? Oh. Well, I'd no idea I'd be debating the war. But listen, Russell, there is something I'd like to ask. I gather from Otterline that you're getting involved with the No Conscription Fellowship. I am involved, Prime Minister, yes. Why are you all so certain there'll be conscription? If casualties continue at the current rate, what other option will be open to you? Listen, tell me, Russell, if conscription were to be brought in, how many would refuse it, in your estimation? 10,000. That many, at least. That's rather a lot of prison cells you'll have to find. And what do you think would pacify them, if you'll pardon the pun? You can't force a man to murder against his will, Prime Minister. There will have to be a conscience clause.
By Christmas 1915, the British casualty toll is 528,227. On December the 27th and December the 28th, the Cabinet meets to discuss the crisis. And at the start of the new year, on January the 5th, 1916, the Prime Minister rises to address the House.
I beg that leave be given to introduce a bill with respect to military service in connection with the present war. The bill will apply to all male British subjects who have attained 18 years of age and not yet attained 41 years of age, and who are unmarried or widowers without children dependent upon them. There will, however, be provision made for exemption in certain specific cases, such exemption being applied for to the applicant's local tribunal. One such exemption being on the ground of a conscientious objection to bearing arms.
Shame! Shame! If they're fit, they shouldn't be exempted. Shame! Shame!
Shame!
Shame!
So I get my hair cut, and I make my way from Conisbrough to Doncaster in order to claim exemption from my local tribunal. Mr. Brocklesby, supposing the enemy were to reach Conisbrough, and you and those dear to you were in danger of an aggravated and dastardly attack, would you stand by and see them ripped to pieces? As the case is hypothetical,
Let us have a straight answer. Would your conscience prevent you from striking the enemy down?
I would certainly not strike them down. No man is justified in taking life.
You would stand by and see women and children cut to pieces and not raise a sword in opposition?
I would do my best to prevent the enemy, but as the case is hypothetical, there might be a chance given us of escaping long before.
You would run away?
Certainly.
When Germany marched into Belgium, was there a chance to run away? How long have you been a schoolteacher, Mr. Brocklesby?
Certified nearly 7 years.
Have you any objection to non-combatant service?
Yes, I do.
Is it generally known in your community that you belong to a brotherhood of some 50 or 60 members who will not agree to anything that this tribunal advise or direct?
You mean the No Conscription Fellowship? I've never made a secret about the matter. The membership nationally is now 5,000. Our supporters include prominent figures like Bertrand Russell.
We're not interested in Bertrand Russell. Who's Bertrand Russell?
Supposing there was a battle just here and you, amongst 5 or 6 others at Conisborough, could save, say, 500 poor women and children by fighting, would you not do your best to save them?
I would do my best to save life, but not by taking
If you
life.
would not exert yourself to defend women and children for being murdered, I think you are just as responsible for the lives of those
I'm
women
sorry,
and
I
children
don't think that
as if
follows
you'd
at all.
taken their lives yourself. Here,
Could I just
it
answer that
seems he
question?
has an objection to doing anything
Could I
that would
just
take
answer-
him into danger.
I'm ready to die for my principles. I am standing up for freedom of conscience of all British men. I cannot bring evidence to prove my conscientious objection. The only way to prove it is to be ready to suffer for it, and if necessary, die for it. You can send me where you will, even into the front line trenches, but you will never get me to raise my hand against my fellow man.
Are you a local preacher, Mr. Brocklesby?
Yes, I am.
And I think you better preach somewhere else.
You will be exempted from combatant service, but will be recommended for non-combatant service.
I wanted absolute exemption.
Next.
Bert Brocklesby was lucky to be given time to state his case. Other objectors had a different story to tell.
Name,
Harold Bing,
age,
18.
18? Oh, in that case, you're not old enough to have a conscience. Case dismissed. Next. You're a socialist.
Yes, I am.
Well, since you're a socialist, you can't have a conscience. Case dismissed. Next.
Religion?
I'm an atheist.
An atheist doesn't have a conscience. Case dismissed. Case dismissed.
Case dismissed. Case dismissed. Case dismissed.
April 1916, Clifford Allen, chairman of the No Conscription Fellowship, addresses their emergency national convention in Bishopsgate Hall, London.
Friends, 2 years ago, after war had broken out, this conference adopted a statement of faith in which we, an organisation of men who hold every sort of political and religious opinion, vowed 2 things. Firstly, to refuse to bear arms because we consider human life to be sacred. And secondly, to oppose every effort to introduce compulsory military service into Great Britain. Sadly, we could not prevent the latter from happening. However, our statement of faith went on to say that should this evil thing, conscription, be introduced, we would all, whatever the consequences might be, obey our conscientious convictions rather than the commands of governments.
2,000 young men cheer and stamp and bellow their approval, while hostile crowds gathered outside grow ever more incensed. Some even try to break their way into the hall. Fellow Brockway, the NCF's founder, immediately takes evasive action.
Please, no applause, please. Might I suggest that we refrain from applauding and cheering loudly at the end of every rousing speech? Because as you can hear, that will only exasperate and inflame the crowds gathered outside even more. What I propose instead, if you agree, Clifford, is that you wave your handkerchiefs. Or, should you not have a handkerchief, your white agenda papers? I'm trying to imagine what that must have looked like. 2,000 people waving white handkerchiefs. When I perform this play on stage, this is often one of my favourite moments, because I ask the audience if they'd be willing to wave something, their own handkerchief or a tissue or the programme perhaps.
And so speaker after speaker, including Bertrand Russell, who arrives bringing with him a young CO he has just bailed from jail, is greeted with a tumultuous sea of handkerchiefs.
Wow! Friends, in a moment, I shall read out the names of the first 15 COs to have been arrested. Every young man in this hall, including Fenner and myself, must realise that we ourselves only have weeks, or maybe days, before our own freedom is snatched from us.